I used to believe mothers always want what's best for their daughters, mine especially. Mama raised me alone after my father's death, and she carried that role like armor. She was firm, proud, and sure of everything except, perhaps, how to let me live my own life. When Chijioke entered the picture, I was 29 and tired of everyone asking when I'd settled down. He was everything mothers liked: calm, respectful, successful, soft-spoken. He came from a quiet family in Enugu, managed construction projects around Nsukka, drove carefully, dressed neatly, and listened more than he spoke. Mama adored him from the first visit. Before I could even define what I felt, she said,
"Amara, this is the man God prepared for you."
I laughed then, thinking it was just her usual pressure dressed in prophecy, but she meant it. Within months, she planned the introduction, the church, the guest list. Whenever I hesitated, she would say,
"You think too much. Peaceful men don't wait forever."
And because I loved her, and because I wanted peace, I said yes. Our wedding was small and beautiful. White tents under the Enugu sun, brass band music, guests fanning themselves with church programs. Chijioke smiled all through, quiet but attentive. Everyone said we looked perfect together. Two gentle souls. I smiled too, though inside I felt like someone watching her own life from a distance. After the wedding, we moved into a bungalow in Independence layout. The house was too neat, almost staged like a hotel room that refused to become a home. He kept every book, every shirt in order. I admired his discipline, until I realized he used it to build walls. He was kind, yes, but distant. We ate together, spoke politely, laughed sometimes, but there was a curtain between us that I could never draw back. When I tried to ask deeper questions about his childhood, his parents, why he never mentioned old friends, he would smile faintly and say,
"Some things are better left in peace."
Still, he knew everything about me, my favorite foods, the stories Mama told me as a child, even the year my father died, details I never remembered sharing.
Your mother mentioned it. She talks about you with pride.
That should have comforted me. It didn't. It felt rehearsed, like he'd studied me long before I walked into his life. Months passed in polite routine. Church on Sundays, work during the week, evening walks that felt like interviews. I told myself love could grow in silence if you watered it with patience. But one evening, while arranging the bookshelf, a folder slipped from between his files. Old letters tied with a ribbon. The handwriting looked familiar. It was Mama's. My throat tightened. I sat on the floor and read one. It was dated 5 years before I met Chijioke. I've kept my promise. She doesn't know yet, but she'll understand when it's time. This will make things right. I didn't understand what I was reading. I folded the letter back exactly as it was and pretended nothing happened. But from that day, every glance between them, my mother and my husband, felt charged with an invisible current. They never spoke much in my presence, but when they did, there was an ease that made me feel like the stranger in the room. I started visiting Aunt Ifeoma, Mama's younger sister, hoping she would drop hints. She was the only one unafraid to question Mama's decisions. One afternoon, as we shared palm wine and boiled groundnuts on a veranda, I told her about the letters. Her laughter died slowly.
"Amara, has your mother told you how she met your father?"
She said he was a teacher in Nsukka. Aunt Ifeoma looked away. He was more than that, and less. Over the next hour, she told me fragments. How Mama had been engaged before my father, how that man vanished after a scandal involving land fraud, and how Mama's marriage to my father began as a desperate attempt to escape shame, But that shame never left, because when my father eventually found out, he left her pregnant and alone. She never forgave both men, Auntie Fioma said, or herself. I went home shaking. That night, I asked Chijioke if he knew anything about Mama's past. He looked at me long, the way doctors look before delivering news they can't soften. Your mother told me not to tell you, he said quietly. But maybe it's time. He poured water into a glass, placed it in front of me, and began to speak. His father, he said, once owned a construction firm in Nansuka. The same man who had abandoned a woman after ruining her family's land. My mother was that woman. He was the son of the man who broke my mother's life. I couldn't breathe. So she made me marry you? He nodded slowly. She said it was destiny, a way for both families to find peace. I whispered, or revenge. He didn't argue. He simply said, I thought love might come later. I hoped it would. For days I couldn't face Mama. When I finally did, she was in the garden. She looked up, saw the storm on my face, and sighed like she'd been waiting years for it. So you know, she said. I asked her why. She dropped the shears gently and sat. Because I wanted you protected. Because he owed us a future. Because I wanted to believe pain could be turned into something good. Her eyes were steady, but tired. You think I didn't know it was wrong? I did. But every night I saw your father's ghost. And every morning I saw you, his daughter. And I wanted to build a wall between you and his sins. Chijioke's family had to repay what they took. Her words were calm, logical even, but underneath them was madness disguised as motherhood. I realized then that love can be the prettiest mask revenge ever wears. I left that evening without saying goodbye. Chijioke didn't stop me. Maybe he was relieved. Maybe he was just tired of living inside someone else's atonement. I moved into a small flat near Holy Ghost Park. The nights there were laughter from nearby bars, but they felt more honest than the quiet of that perfect house. For months, I woke up expecting someone to knock, to beg me to come back, to explain again. No one did. Silence became the new language between us all. Mama sent short texts, Bible verses, health reminders, but never apologies. Chijioke wired money monthly into my account without a message. I never spent it. It sat there like evidence of a life I didn't choose. One evening, I traveled to Nsuka alone. I visited the land my mother once lost, the same plot at the edge of the old university road. It was overgrown with weeds, but standing there, I felt something uncoil inside me. The past was still here, but it no longer needed my blood to keep breathing. As the sun set, I heard church bells echoing faintly across the hills. The wind smelled of rain and old dust. I whispered, "It ends with me." When I returned to Enugu, I sent Mama a text. I didn't accuse her. I didn't forgive her either. I simply said, "You tried to fix the past, but you used the wrong future." That was a year ago. She never replied, but sometimes she calls and stays silent on the line, breathing softly, as if listening to confirm I'm still alive. I never hang up first. Some silences deserve to finish themselves. I still see Chijioke occasionally, church weddings, mutual friends. We exchange polite smiles, nothing more. He remarried quietly last year. His new wife looks happy. I'm glad for him, or maybe just numb. People often ask why I'm still single. I say I'm taking my time. The truth is, I'm still learning to separate love from obligation, peace from manipulation. I'm still unlearning the idea that someone else's choice can ever become my destiny. Sometimes, at night, I remember our wedding day. The bright sun, Mama's proud smile, the vows I barely heard. I see her arranging my veil with trembling hands, whispering, "You'll thank me later." And I wonder if she believed that, even as she tied two broken stories together and called it healing. That was the day I stopped confusing silence with peace. And that was the day I finally became my own person.